Jordan Addison has been arrested again for trespassing in Florida, marking his third major off-field incident. This pattern of behavior is putting his future with the Minnesota Vikings in serious jeopardy. But before we break this down, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that like button, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I am sitting here today looking at a situation that I truly hoped we would never have to discuss again regarding one of our most talented young players. Jordan Addison, the man we expected to be the perfect Robin to Justin Jefferson's Batman, has found himself in the headlines for all the wrong reasons once more. According to reports from Sports Illustrated and local authorities in Florida, Addison was arrested for probable cause trespassing. While trespassing might sound minor to some on the surface compared to other offenses, we have to look at the totality of the circumstances and the alarming pattern of behavior that is developing with this young man. This is not an isolated incident. This is not a one-time mistake or a momentary lapse in judgment that we can simply brush under the rug. This is the third time since we drafted him in the first round that he has had a run-in with the law or an incident that reflects poorly on the Minnesota Vikings organization. I have to be honest with you, my patience is wearing thin, and I know the front office feels the same way. When we used a high first-round pick on Addison, we were banking on his elite route running and his high football IQ, but we were also banking on his character. Right now, that character is being called into question in a massive way. I think back to that night in July of 2023 when he was caught going 140 miles per hour in a 55 mile per hour zone. That was a terrifying moment that could have ended in tragedy. Then we had the DUI arrest in California this past summer, which already had the league office looking closely at his status. And now, this trespassing arrest in Florida. It feels like every time we start to focus on his incredible talent on the field, he does something off the field that pulls us right back into the mud. I look at Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and I see two men who have worked tirelessly to build a culture of accountability and respect in Egan. They want high-character individuals who represent the horns on the helmet with pride. Every time Addison gets handcuffed, it chips away at that culture. It creates a distraction that the coaching staff has to address instead of focusing on the game plan. It forces his teammates to answer questions about him in the locker room instead of talking about the upcoming matchup. I am deeply concerned about what this means for his long-term future in Minnesota. We are approaching a critical juncture where the team has to decide on his fifth-year option and potential extensions. How can you commit hundreds and millions of dollars to a player who you cannot trust to stay out of trouble during the offseason? The Vikings are a professional organization with high standards, and right now, Addison is failing to meet those standards. I have spent hours looking at the details of this Florida arrest, and while the legal process still needs to play out, the damage to his reputation is already done. We are talking about a player who has all the tools to be a perennial Pro Bowler, but he is currently his own worst enemy. I wonder if the league will step in now with a more significant suspension under the personal conduct policy. Usually, the NFL is more lenient with first-time offenders, but by the third time, Roger Goodell starts to lose his temper. We could be looking at a multi-game suspension that leaves Sam Darnold or whoever is under center without a key weapon. I think about the impact on the rest of the wide receiver room too. We have guys like Jalen Naylor and Brandon Powell who work their tails off and stay out of the news. Do they deserve more opportunities because they are dependable? The old saying goes that the best ability is availability, but I would argue that the second best ability is reliability. If I cannot rely on you to be available on Sunday because you are dealing with legal issues from Saturday night, then you are a liability to the roster. I am frustrated because I see the potential. I saw what he did in his rookie year when Justin Jefferson went down. He stepped up and showed he could be a #1 receiver in this league. But talent only gets you so far if you cannot keep your head on straight. I want to believe he can turn it around, but I am starting to lose faith. The Vikings have a history of dealing with wide receiver drama, from the Randy Moss days to Stephon Diggs, but this is different. This isn't about targets or contract disputes. This is about legal trouble and personal responsibility. I believe the front office is currently having very difficult conversations behind closed doors about whether or not Addison fits into the 5-year plan for this franchise. If he is going to be a constant source of negative PR, they might decide that the talent isn't worth the headache. We have seen this story play out many times in the NFL, where a talented player eats himself out of the league because he can't stay away from the wrong situations. I really hope Jordan realizes that his dream is slipping through his fingers. He needs to surround himself with a better circle of people and focus entirely on his craft. The Minnesota Vikings fans deserve better than this. They show up every week, they buy the jerseys, and they support these players through thick and thin. To see a young star take that for granted is a slap in the face to the entire fan base.
I will be watching the legal developments in Florida very closely over the next few days to see exactly what led to this probable cause arrest. If the details are as bad as they look, we might be seeing the beginning of the end for Jordan Addison in a Vikings uniform.
As we continue to digest this breaking news regarding Jordan Addison's arrest in Florida, I want to pivot and talk about the actual mechanics of what happens next for the Minnesota Vikings. From a salary cap perspective, Addison is still on his rookie contract, which provides the team with some flexibility, but also some significant hurdles. If the Vikings were to decide that they have had enough and wanted to move on, the dead cap hit would be substantial because of his status as a first-round pick. However, there are often clauses in these high-level contracts related to personal conduct that can void guaranteed money if a player is suspended by the league or convicted of certain crimes. I am not saying we are there yet, but I guarantee you that the legal team in the Vikings front office is dusting off that contract right now and reading the fine print. I look at the landscape of the NFC North, and I see how competitive this division has become. You cannot afford to have a distracted roster. The Detroit Lions and Green Bay Packers are not going to wait for us to get our house in order. Every day that we are talking about Jordan Addison's legal problems is a day we aren't talking about how to beat our rivals. I also want to consider the message this sends to the other young players on the team. If Addison is allowed to continue this pattern without significant internal consequences, what does that say to the rookies we just drafted? It suggests that as long as you are talented, the rules don't apply to you. That is the exact opposite of the culture Kevin O'Connell has been trying to instill since the day he arrived from the Rams. I remember his opening press conference where he talked about the way we do things and how character was paramount. This arrest is a direct challenge to that philosophy. I have to wonder if Kwesi Adofo-Mensah is starting to regret the pick. There were other talented players on the board at that time, and while Addison's production has been great, his off-field profile has been a disaster. When you are a GM, you are judged by your hits and misses, but you are also judged by the types of people you bring into the building. I know Kwesi is a numbers guy, a data-driven executive, but you can't always quantify character in a spreadsheet. This situation is a reminder that the human element of football is just as important as the 40-yard dash time or the catch radius. If I am the Vikings, I am looking at the wide receiver market very differently now. Maybe we need to look at the draft next year and consider taking another pass catcher early just as insurance. We cannot go into another season praying that Addison stays out of trouble. I also think about the veteran leadership on this team. Guys like Harrison Smith and Justin Jefferson need to pull Addison aside and have a real heart-to-heart. If they haven't already, they need to tell him that he is letting the team down. Sometimes a coach's voice gets tuned out, but the voice of a teammate who has been in the trenches carries a different kind of weight. I am also curious to see how the NFL league office reacts. They have been under pressure to be tougher on off-field incidents involving recurring offenders. If they decide to make an example out of him, we could be looking at a 6 or even an 8-game suspension, depending on how they categorize this third incident. That would effectively end our hopes of a deep playoff run if we can't find a way to replace his production. The timing of this is also terrible. We are in a season where we are trying to find our identity with a new quarterback situation. The last thing a new quarterback needs is to lose his secondary target because of a trespassing charge in Florida. It feels like a dark cloud is hanging over the facility right now. I want to hear from Kevin O'Connell. I want to see if he remains supportive or if his tone has shifted to one of stern discipline. In the past, he has been very protective of his players, but there comes a point where protection becomes enablement. I think we have reached that point. If Addison doesn't face a real wake-up call now, when will he? Does it take something even more serious to happen before he realizes the gravity of his actions? I am hoping for the best, but preparing for the worst. This news has sent shockwaves through the Vikings community, and for good reason. We finally felt like the offense was clicking and the future was bright. And then this happens. It is a reminder of how fragile success in the NFL can be. One bad decision off the field can ruin years of hard work on the field. I will be keeping you guys updated as more details emerge from the Florida Police Department and the Vikings organization. We need to see the official charges and the team's formal response. Until then, we are left to speculate on the future of a young man who has the world at his feet but can't seem to stop tripping over his own shadow. It is a sad day for Vikings fans, but we have to face the reality of the situation. This is a massive blow to the team's stability and a huge question mark for the future of our wide receiver core. I hope Addison finds the help or the guidance he needs to move past this, but as a professional analyst, I have to report the truth. His time in Minnesota is now on very thin ice. Make sure you stay tuned to the channel because this story is developing rapidly, and I will have all the updates as they break. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single beat of this Viking saga. We are in this together, and I will keep bringing you the hard truths about our team, no matter how difficult they are to hear.
Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.